And happy Wednesday to the world out there, and wherever you may be listening to this podcast, happy whatever day of the week it is. Be it your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or maybe even next week. And gentlemen, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Sammy. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, even though that win was kind of a heartbreaker.
The win?
Or that loss, I'm sorry. I'm projecting. That's how bad it is.
Somebody saw a different game than I watched. But.
Yeah. Quick shout out to Birdfinger and to Tony. Here's his jam. So if you like the music, that's made by Brown AMD or D Brown on SoundCloud. You can find it all over. But if you want to listen to it more, go to hawkscast.com on the forum. Just request it, and I'll put a link on the podcast page if you like this music, because I know that Birdfinger does. And Tony chiming in real quick before we even started, and he sees episode 412, season 4, episode 12, for those that you want to know. He says Atlanta is awful. So he off the bat is ready for this win. So we're ready to kick it off. And before we even talk about Atlanta, we got to talk about that Ravens game.
We do? Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Before we even get into that, I wanna just give a quick shout out to my friend Eric. I've known Eric since we were very, very young, and we've been friends throughout school. And even though, we don't live in the same city, he lives across the water. I live in Seattle, and by water, I'm talking about a lake, so he's very close. But he invited me to this game, and we got to go sit in the clubs, which is really nice. Club seats, if you ever have the opportunity, definitely go, because it's a lot of fun. You're undercover. It's a lot warmer, especially since the weather that day was not very friendly. And it was kind of a bummer of a game. You get these nice seats, and you kind of watch a stinker. What was it like for you watching that game?
Who are you talking to?
Ross, what was it like? I imagine you're sitting there. It's crazy hours. So what? It's like 5 a.m. for you?
That was the 5:25 game.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about it last week, and it's easy to say in hindsight, but I did have a bit of a bad feeling all week. Nothing really based on the Ravens. It was sort of based on 5-1, and 6-1 doesn't really seem really plausible. And so the game started, and the game didn't go well, and it was really late, and I was really frustrated, and I found myself not even angry.
Really?
And we, how we talked about last week, how a lot of games when the Seahawks start off and they're losing the game, you always get the sort of, since the Pete Carroll era, or maybe more correctly the Russell Wilson era started, you're just waiting to figure out how the comeback is going to happen, right?
Right.
I didn't have that feeling this game. I kept being optimistic, telling myself to be optimistic, knowing it's Russell Wilson, and every time I do give up on him, that's when he does the miracles. Maybe I should have given up completely. I don't know. But I don't know. The whole everything just felt off from the beginning, and I just had no. I was statistically, things are going to catch up to you, and they did. I mean, everything statistically, the outliers were all there.
Right.
Russell Wilson, in his whole career, throws 4 pick six. It's got to be the same day that Metcalf is going to have a TD or TD return off of his fumble.
Right.
It's weird, and it's going to be on the day it's a rainy day where it's not really great weather for a Russell Wilson type comeback. And I mean, it wasn't exactly a perfect storm working against them. It's just like I said, I never really felt 6-1 sounds like a realistic record for the Seattle Seahawks team.
I mean, I know that when I was putting in my predictions last week, I think I said a 17-13 game. I was expecting it to be a low-scoring game, and to a degree it was, but it was a low-scoring game for Seattle because we just couldn't do a whole lot. And then on the Ravens side, it was a low-scoring thing because they didn't need to score a whole lot because their defense did that for them. So credit to them, but it was kind of rough. Zeb, I know you were traveling, so maybe it's your fault. We can blame you or Birdfinger, who says he didn't turn to red zone quick enough. But how much of this game did you get to take in? You were traveling that day, doing some fun stuff, but how much did you get to see, whether live or after the fact?
I didn't get to see any of it. I watched I watched the highlights on YouTube one time. I was in Universal Studios. So I just decided before the game even started, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to have fun today. I'm not going to stress over what's going on in the game, and I'll just see what happens. And it didn't work out so well. So either that's my two ways of looking at it is that either A, that's my fault, and if that's the case, I apologize. The other way to look at it is that maybe I'm glad that this of all the games so far, that's the one that I had to miss.
Yeah, I mean, of the games to miss, I would say that this game feels worse than the Saints game. I don't know. Do you guys have that sense? I mean, Ross, like, you were watching this game live. Did you feel that this game felt worse than
In a sense, I did. I mean, like, you come away from the game, and I mean, a lot of people come away from the game sort of despondent, and it felt like that sort of during the game. It just, I mean, like, that's just a product of how the game flow went. Russell Wilson completing less than half of his receptions, and Chris Carson averaging like 3.1 yards per carry. And it just felt like everything you did didn't really work out. Everything you usually do doesn't work out. And all your like really good players who you expect to do good things just don't come through. And so in a sense, you feel like you've been, I mean, like, it's a demoralizing loss in that sense. But I think like this time it kind of worked for me, like the morning game. I go to sleep right after the game. I wake up 3 hours later, and I'm like, you know what? We're 5-2. We're 5-2. 5-2 is not a bad record. It's what I think that's better than what I thought we'd be, or it's about where we thought we'd be. And if you're going to lose, like, it has to happen in some way, right? I mean, you're going to lose, you're going to lose. So people get hung up on the exact details of the loss. But the fact is, like, what did you think the team was going to be this way? Was anybody calling for the Seahawks to be 7-0? No. So, I mean, we're going to lose. And we're going to lose, and sometimes it's going to feel, oh, my God, we almost got it. Sometimes it's going to feel like it just wasn't our day. Yeah. And rather than me, like, it didn't shake my faith in any particular player, team, philosophy, coach, whatever. It just felt to me like, man, it was one of those games. And there are a couple lessons to learn in it.
Sure.
But you know what? Like, it's not going to happen again where Russell Wilson throws a pick six and then we have a fumble return for a touchdown and a free safety gives up a 50-yard touchdown. Or not touchdown exactly, but essentially a touchdown. Yeah. Give up a 50-yard play so they don't have to move the ball at all. That's not going to happen probably again this season.
Yeah. Like all the bad things, again, like the Saints game, it's all these bad things happening in one game, and it makes it so hard for the team to overcome. The one thing that was really unique about being at the game is even though Russell Wilson had a poor game, like there's no way to sugarcoat it. He had a poor game. He was under 50% passing, and Chris Carson did not have a great day running. In the game, I was kind of like in disbelief that those were the actual stats. I wasn't looking at the stats while the game was going on, but they pop them up on one. They have two scoreboards dedicated to like performance and offensive performance. And it was kind of surprising to see that his passing was so bad. I mean, Lamar Jackson also had a very bad day passing as well, both under 50%. But seeing Chris Carson and his really low run average, that was a surprise too, because I didn't really get that sense during the game. Not until the fumble with DK that was returned for the touchdown. I was like, okay, well, this game's like, it's still close. It's still a one-score game. We just have to stop being bad, and we could actually still like come back and win this. Like, there was not a point until that fumble return for a touchdown that's not like, oh, we're totally out of this. It was like, no, we're playing bad, but we're not playing bad enough that we're totally blown out. And that's what I thought was kind of weird coming out of the game. It was disappointing. All the things that you said, but it wasn't like this crushing defeat that I think it maybe was or wasn't. I'm not even sure how to categorize it still yet.
I feel like, and this is probably an oversimplification, but I feel like this game was closer than the score looks, whereas the game against the Saints was maybe not quite as close as the score looks.
That's probably exactly.
And if that's the case, then I think the loss against the Saints is probably the worst loss. But again, both of those teams, the Saints and the Ravens, pretty good football teams this year. So yeah, I don't think it's anything to be ashamed about.
what I felt really frustrated with was the narrative that came out of the game was that Lamar Jackson is like the future of football and this all-time amazing quarterback and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the dude scored one touchdown, and that was because we gave him a 50-yard pass play. Yeah, he ran for a lot of yards, but any running quarterback can always run for a lot of yards because defenses aren't set up in the NFL to stop that. Lamar Jackson also threw for less than 50% of completions. He's there's always the future of the NFL. He's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. And I'm like, and everybody's like, oh, he's Michael Vick. And I'm like, he's a more athletic Russell Wilson, except he'll never be as accurate. He's never going to win as much. The Baltimore Ravens came into the game 4-2, but people were acting as if they were sort of some sort of undefeated super team with this brand new concept nobody's had since Michael Vick. And I'm like, Michael Vick was really fun to watch and play in Madden. Michael Vick overall was not a tremendously successful NFL quarterback. He didn't win any Super Bowls. Don't think he ever played more than one NFC Championship game. Didn't win that game. It's fun to watch. I don't know. I couldn't stand the narrative. I couldn't stand like the fan reaction. I couldn't stand like Lamar Jackson said. Lamar Jackson's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. He is, but he's not revolutionary. He's not going to take over the NFL. He's not going to do any of those things. And the Baltimore Ravens, again, they're 5-2. They're the exact same record as us. So everybody just settled down.
I think that's actually a really good point, because that's one thing that I know I've kind of actively done this week is I've kind of stayed offline, because the narrative that like, hey, this really agile mobile quarterback is going to revolutionize the game, it's like, we know that's not true. Passing still wins you the game. And it goes back to my discrepancy against running backs. Is running backs can help you get a lead, but they can't help you come back from a lot when you're down. Because no one runs the ball when they're down. Yeah, you see the quarterback scramble to get yardage and to like extend drives, but that's not how you win games. Yeah, you can win games here and there, but that's not how you win games over the course of a season, over multiple years. There's no one, and this includes all the people hyping up Lamar Jackson. No one's talking about him being like a Hall of Fame, like 15+ year career player. They're saying like, this year he's playing great. This year he's doing really amazing things. But that's just 1 year. Cam Newton had the same thing when he won the NFL MVP 3 or 4 seasons ago. He has yet to be able to replicate that kind of performance, and there's a reason for that, and it's because NFL defenses get better and better and better, and quarterbacks that play at a precision level are what help you win games, which is why they win MVPs.
That's a good point. I mean, like I said, I think if you're a running quarterback that's skilled, you're always going to have like a good running average. You can almost always, to this day, if Russell Wilson really wanted to, he could get to 100 yards rushing nearly every game, I believe.
Yeah.
But it just means you're sacrificing so many other opportunities.
And I would say the same thing that I would say to all those other running quarterbacks is it will help you win a game here or there, but that will not help you win in the long term.
It depends on how you use it, because it's actually it was a big lesson I took away from the game. The biggest takeaway I had from the game was everybody was saying like Pete Carroll is getting too conservative, and I disagree 98% of the time. There's one thing that I agree with it on, but it's not what they mean. I think once Russell got his first big contract, and then especially now he's got a second big contract, there's a hesitancy to let him run.
Right.
Like, you don't want to, like, they don't run the read option. I mean, they made a big deal out of the fact in the first quarter of that game, he actually kept on a read option.
Yep.
And it was the first time he's kept in the first quarter in a long time. And what I took away from the game was that is where they've gotten conservative, and you can't play scared, and you can't play scared to get hurt. I think even this year, especially like Russell Wilson should be allowed to run. I think they need him to run more, because you remember way back when they had I can't remember what it was, but they had this most amazing preseason package kind of thing once upon a time, and they talked about how they tackle, and then they talked about like running, and there was this great answer where like they sort of, somebody was asked, is it Russell Wilson that helps Marshawn Lynch or Marshawn Lynch that helps Russell Wilson? And they're like, the read option helps them both. The fact that Russell Wilson might take off any time gives Marshawn Lynch what they figured like a half a yard every carry.
Yep.
Now they don't do that. People don't respect it anymore, right?
Right. They
But
definitely don't.
And we could use that half a yard every carry. We could still get that from Chris Carson, and we could still get those 5-yard carries from Russell Wilson. It's mostly gone, and I think like go back. If anything, that's what I learned from Lamar Jackson watching him. I'm going. I missed the fact that if you're a dual threat quarterback, it's now truly 11 on 11 instead of 10 on 11, what it normally is. I want that.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's something that can be lost. And the only point that I would add to this is the thing that Russell Wilson does better than every other athletic quarterback that has the ability to run is he does everything to maximize protecting himself. He does not allow himself to take an unnecessary hit. He will sacrifice a first down in order to get down safely so many times. And much to the pain and frustration that might bring to a player, I would rather have Russell Wilson throughout the season than convert the maybe on average one extra first down a game if that means that he can play for the year. And that's just like a difference of opinion, but that's how I know we will continue to be in these games because we have Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, going back to Zeb's point, if we played the Ravens 10 times this year, how many times do you think we would win?
In the same conditions, in the weather?
Yeah.
I would give us the edge, maybe 6-4.
How about if we play the Saints 10 times?
If we played that Saints team, I would say 7-3.
Okay.
And the
How about you,
reason,
Zach?
and the reason, so I would say I would say that I'm giving us a better chance against the Saints because we contained the Saints until they had a 2-score lead, right? No one was doing anything. They have a really good defense. And they were playing prevent at the end, so it's kind of hard to like really, really assume. But I think that if we were in front of that game, I trust Russell Wilson to edge a lead more so than I would trust Teddy Bridgewater to come back and bring that team ahead when he didn't have a ball travel in there more than, I think, 7 yards, I want to say. I mean, that's hyperbole, but I don't recall a ball traveling very far in the air for him.
Yeah. I was a little bit different. I thought, no, I guess it's quite a bit different. I thought against the Ravens because they looked really good. And in those conditions, I thought if we played them 10 times, we'd win 5. Thought if we played the Saints, I think the Saints are really good. I think they're legit. If we play the Saints, I think we could win 4.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Zeb, you got an opinion on this?
I think we'd go 5-4-1 against the Ravens and 4-5-1 against the Saints.
Those damn ties.
Damn ties. So the Seahawks sit at 5-2 through week 7 of the NFL year, and while both losses were eerily similar, this last one definitely feels a lot worse. The offense comes back to earth. Russell throws his first pick that was very costly. Fans are worried what these mean, and then Trader John finds the starting safety after parting with some loose change. The Seahawks look to regroup for another 10 a.m. road game against former defensive coordinator Dan Quinn and the Atlanta Falcons. This is the Hawkscast podcast brought to you by the Hawkscast Forum, and we're going to jump into topic number 1. So, Ross, I want to know, topic number 1, can you be a quote-unquote bad 5-2 team?
You can. I mean, it depends on what the schedule look like and what's happened to your roster and things like that. There's a lot of historically teams that start 5-2 and end up 6-10, 7-9. You can also be not really bad, but like a paper tiger. Like maybe you carry it all the way into the playoffs, but you're not really a contender, right? Like right now in the AFC, for example, there's some teams leading their divisions, and they might be 5-2. But they're not really serious contenders. It's just that they're playing weak competition, and none of them matter until they play the Patriots, right?
Right.
I don't think the Seahawks are anywhere near a bad 5-2. I think it's a massive overreaction. We're never going to be bad because we've got a good system, we've got a good coach, we've got a sound philosophy, we've got a really good quarterback, we've got talented players. What was probably the best middle linebacker, and now I'll debate that topic now. But I think they did it again. Like I think they did. Well, we'll talk about later because you guys are going to jump all over him. But I'm one extended Bobby too many times. I don't know. I mean, I'm offended the conversation comes up. We're not a bad 5-2 team. Like, just take Aaron Rodgers' advice, man.
Just relax.
Relax. RELAX. Relax.
Regarding Los Angeles International Airport.
Yeah. If we win against Atlanta, that puts us at 6-2. Projected out, that's 12-4. And we've taken care of some of the heavy schedule, what we thought was going to be some of the heavy lifting. There's quite a bit of heavy lifting left, but we've had to play some of the teams that we thought were going to be tough already.
Yeah.
Right?
We're done with the AFC.
Well, I mean, that ended up not being what we thought it was going to be. We thought, some people thought preseason Cleveland was going to be ooh, and Pittsburgh's almost always ooh, and Cincinnati is not supposed to be that bad. And, but, I mean, yeah, those guys didn't shake out, but who's to say the schedule we played wasn't that easy. Part of those losses are losses we handed the record. I don't know. You can only beat the people on your schedule.
Yeah.
The two teams we've lost to were really, really legit teams. Those are teams that are still going to be standing in January. I think we all.
Yeah.
Right? The Saints and the Ravens are playoff bound.
I think. I mean, they look like easily the class of their divisions right now. They look the most well-rounded, and I think the Saints, if Drew Brees comes back and can become Drew Brees, that's a very scary team.
Dude, they haven't lost to Teddy. Teddy's not lighting it up, but there's a lot to be said for chemistry. You can win with chemistry, not with lighting things up, right? You can be the Trent Dilfer.
Yeah.
Wow, Teddy's doing fine.
Yeah. I
would actually be slightly nervous because Drew Brees since the end of last season seems slightly on the downside of the career kind of thing, and I'd actually be slightly hesitant to play with my chemistry at this point, wouldn't you? No, not at all.
I mean, you have to at least think about it.
Yeah, I think what it is that Teddy buys you time, so you don't have to put in Breeze until you're 100% sold on him.
Teddy's never lost a game this year. Never lost a game this year.
Yeah, so is Keenan Allen in or whatever his name is, Kyle Allen in Carolina. So
yeah,
it's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Mariners have never lost a game in the World Series.
Never been to a World Series either, but that's a different podcast and a different channel. Zed, what about you? Can you be a bad 5-2 team? And specifically, is the Seahawks a bad 5-2 team?
That's a mean question.
I mean, I think Ross hit all the major points. You can technically be a bad 5-2 team, but 5-2 is never bad. It just comes down to who you've played. And looking at our schedule,
sometimes twice a day,
dude. I mean, if I told you that 7 weeks in we'd be 3-1 against the AFC division that we have to play, and then we'd be 2-0 against our own division, that's pretty good, right? You'd be happy with those numbers. So,
yeah. I would take it in a second.
I do think that at 5-1, the Seahawks were kind of on paper. I think it looked better than the team actually is. But I think at 5-2, you've done enough to get there. So I don't know that the Seahawks are a 14-2, 13-3 team, but 10-6, 11-5 to me seems very reasonable. And bad teams don't end up with those records. Inconsistent teams can, and I think the Seahawks have been consistently inconsistent this year. So, sitting at 5-2 right now, are the Seahawks a bad team? No, absolutely not.
I think
they a good team?
I think that's and that's kind of the reverse question is if they're not a bad team, are they a good team? And I would say no, they're not a bad 5-2 team because 5-2 is still 5-2. Wins are a premium in this league. I would say is they are a concerned 5-2 team. I mean, if we're going to pull an adjective out, I would not say they're good. I would not say bad, but I would say they are a concerned 5-2 team. And the reason for that is their wins are a razor edge. They're only +5 on the year in regards to point differential. And while that doesn't have as much of an impact as say baseball, it is a concerning stat because that means on average their wins are by 1 point each. And, they've had a 1 point, a 2 point, a 4 point, and another 2 point win. So, I mean, 4 of their wins are, almost less than a field goal to a degree. So that is concerning to a degree. And that's maybe the bigger question about this team. Not that can they sustain or can they improve. It's kind of like, with what we've seen through 7 weeks, I think there are things that you have to acknowledge that maybe we're not sure. And Ross, one thing that we had talked about is if your coach makes a bad decision when you have a razor thin margin for error, what does that mean? What does it mean if you have to be concerned that one bad decision by your coach could result in a win or a loss? I don't know if that happened in this game, and I think that there's definitely some concern if that is maybe happening right now.
But it's possible that's somewhat of an illusion. I mean, I think it's always a mark of the good teams that, I mean, every football game comes down to 5 or 6 or 7 plays. And the team that makes the majority of those is the one that's going to win. So although, like, you can say it's razor thin and it comes down to one decision, but it's not. It's 5 or 6 decisions, and you just got to believe that your coach and your coaching staff and your players are better prepared. So if it comes down to 7 decisions, you make the better one 4 out of the 7 times. They make it a 3 out of 7, and you win. Because whether you're playing the Patriots or you're playing the Browns, they're all professionals. They're all good. They're all really, really good. And that's part of the philosophy. Like, and it's actually become more extreme as time goes by. Pete Carroll just wants to shorten the game and get to the point, and he trusts himself and he trusts his preparation of his players. And he should. I mean, like, when it comes down to it, most of the time, if I've got Russell Wilson and I've got the ball last, I'm feeling good.
Right.
If my defense has to make a stop, this year I don't feel as good as some years in the past, but I do know that I got Bobby and I got Clowney out there, and they're gonna give me a shot. So, the razor thing is kind of concerning, but there's some context to it, and some of that context is it's not like completely on purpose. I'm sure like Pete Carroll wouldn't mind some of those 50-20 victories like we had in 2013, but it doesn't concern him. He has faith that the short game is going to work for him, and that he's got, when it comes down to it, he's prepared.
All right. Well, Ross is teeing me up. He's teeing me up for topic number 2, because I want to talk about the 2013 team. And Zeb, I want to know, is the staff aware that they're coaching the 2019 roster and not the 2013 roster?
Well, I think so, because if not, it may be a sign of early onset dementia or Alzheimer's.
I blame it on the ball that he took to the face.
No, I totally get and also agree that at some points during this season, it feels as though Pete Carroll still believes that he has a world-class defense and that he's kind of just operating the same way he would have under those circumstances. But I think that's part of what his whole philosophy is, and I think this goes back to even with Darrell Bevell and questions about the personnel on the field. I think his idea of doing this is doing it his way no matter what and making it work because he feels like the way he does things is the best way for him to do them. So I get it. I think what another part of it is that he really does believe in his players, and he wants his players to believe in themselves. So he does everything he can to treat them as though he has the utmost faith in them being able to play to their best abilities and accomplish what they set out to accomplish. So we may not have the 2013 defense anymore, but he wants them to feel as though they're that good, and he believes that they can play that good. So again, without having actually watched this last game, that's kind of how I feel about that.
Fair enough. Ross, what about you? I mean, they just made a big trade for a safety, and I had some comments about that. But what's your thoughts about this roster versus maybe what Pete wants him to be?
I mean, I think to say everything I have to say on this topic would take a long. I'm going to cut myself short here. Yeah, it's not my strong suit. Cutting myself short. I think to some degree, I think almost every coach does that. I mean, coaches tend to play as if they've got like their best team, right? Just like old people tend to wear like the best fashion they had when they were young, and somehow they find those new clothes, and they're still wearing the same clothes from 1979 because that was like what fit them best. Coaches kind of like their best teams ever. That's what's stuck in their head to some degree. Almost every coach, but like Zeb says, it's not just that. It's a combination of things. It's he like Zeb said, he's got his way. I think I mean, even reading his book and everything, and through his experiences, and reading between the lines of what you can really pay attention to Pete Carroll talks as opposed to when he's just talking to talk because he has to. There's like 10 things or 11 things that Pete Carroll thinks really matter in a football game, and he doesn't think that a fourth down call in the third quarter that's on the 40-yard line is one of them. You can argue back and forth, but there's a whole lot of reasons for it. You can like talk about some of his other, and part of it again. We talked some of this last week where there's multiple aspects to everything he does. He's playing the long game, so he's going to make this play call as if he had that defense in the past, and part of it's because he has that idea, but part of it's also because he wants to be sending that message to Tedrick Thompson. If he has to use Tedrick Thompson, he's going to have Tedrick Thompson believing in himself. Is that whole "why not you"? If somebody else can do it, then see you can be back the two, and if Earl can do it, you can do it too. Why not you? But it's also just like it's a part of his sort of holistic approach to the game. He doesn't look at anything in isolation. He actually looks at how everything's connected. And if you go for it, or if you don't go for it, if you kick this, and if you don't kick it, what are all the ramifications? So people think he's making dumb decisions based on really simplistic calculations, but he's looking how it affects the entire team and the entire offense, the entire defense, the entire special teams, and how it's going to affect his players' attitudes next week. I mean, and I can't go into much more detail because I don't have the time, but there is some element of he's probably. I don't think it's like he thinks his defense is that defense. It's the same theoretical defense, so he knows what they can theoretically do, and so he's hoping they do. It's just that the execution sometimes is coming up short.
Right. I think kind of to your point, it's not so much that Pete thinks that this is the 2013 roster, but I think it's more of the people kind of want there to be a full evolution of Pete Carroll. People say that Pete Carroll has kind of like lost his way or he's gotten too old. And I think what it is he has his philosophy, and his philosophy has worked for so many years in Seattle through all of the changes on the offense and defenses and the rule changes. And I think what people are looking at is they're saying like, well, you've got Russell Wilson. We know how good he can be, and you are not doing everything to like unleash him. You're still letting him play like it's the 2013 Seahawks, and you're not going to let him throw 40 plus times a game. You're still trying to limit him to 25 when he could be so much better. I think that's kind of the feeling that I get from fans and like the way that people are talking about, especially after this loss, because people don't like the way that Pete Carroll wins. Like that's kind of like I think the summation of everything. They don't like the fact that Pete Carroll wins by a few points, that he's not blowing people out on a regular basis. And the idea is that, well, in 2013, we weren't blowing people out, but we were coming back and winning all the time. That's not what people want. People want to see a Patriots-style game where you just trash on the New York Jets 33-0. You want to see, like, all of these big, like, big lopsided wins. That's just kind of not what Pete Carroll goes for, nor does he really care about.
I mean, again, I think he wouldn't mind it, but if it doesn't happen, he doesn't mind.
Right, he's not
he always
forcing
says he doesn't care about the first. It doesn't care about starting fast, and I'm sure that's true about the offense. I think it always bothers him if the defense doesn't come to play. But
right,
right.
Yeah, and I think that's a highlight to your point. Even though I jokingly say that safety is not a big concern for me, not because I don't think we should upgrade the safety, but I feel like there's other things that we need more assistance with. And we were joking about it. in the acquisition of the new safety, Quandre Diggs, which I think is going to be a great addition. I like him starting. I like the idea of him and Blair playing together. I think Bradley McDougall, if he's hurt, he's not going to add. I think Tetrick, I like him as an individual, but he's just not the playmaker that you need if in the safety position. That's what Pete Carroll wants. He wants a playmaking safety, and that's what we've had the luxury of having for, so many of these years with Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas. So we don't have that anymore, and I think that's what Pete wants to replicate. He doesn't want a Earl Thomas or Cam Chancellor. He wants a playmaker in those positions.
In my opinion, it's not even. I mean, yeah, a lot of it's like he wants a dynamic player, but in combination with that, like there's the one thing you can't do as a safety.
Give up that deep ball.
You can't give up anything deep. And I mean, like, you're playing one high, you're single high, you've got one job. And the infuriating thing about Tetrick is that on other plays, he will go unnecessarily deep. Like he'll at the snap of the ball, he's always backpedaling before he's even read the play.
Yeah.
He's like, but then like when it actually matters, like somehow he's not back there.
Right. He's the deepest guy except when he doesn't need to be.
Right. I mean, it's just, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. And like they've known it for a year. I mean, like they drafted essentially 3 safeties plus a linebacker that can play safety, right? And now they've traded for a safety. And how many safeties have they traded for or picked up off of waivers in the past year? Right? They're looking and looking and looking, and I think it's driving them insane because they don't need Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas is the ideal. But you don't need Earl Thomas as the free safety to run the defense he wants. You just need somebody who's like a really good safety, not like an amazing safety.
Right. You need a guy that can execute that plan, and I think that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing Tetrick execute the plan because he's either unsure or he's too caught up in like the details that maybe he shouldn't focus on, and Pete Carroll doesn't want that of his players.
And then once you have that safety, then Bobby Wagner is more free because he doesn't have to worry about whether he has to go a little bit deeper in his coverage.
Right.
The outside corners can be a little more secure in theirs because they know that they only have to take their third or their quarter, depending on the coverage. Everybody gets to play faster, looser, and easier if you've got the right safety. So like in my opinion, in Pete Carroll's defense, like the free safeties is the Russell Wilson. Like everybody says it's Bobby Wagner, but it's not. It's the free safety. It all runs to the free safety.
Right.
The free safety makes it all happen.
Right.
And you gotta have him.
All right. I agree. And maybe this move, Diggs is going to be that guy because he was highly revered. A lot of Detroit Lions fans were very, very disappointed, and players are very sad to hear him go. So hopefully that's a benefit to us.
They traded a team captain.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Why would they do that?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what the Lions are thinking, but yeah, I mean,
it makes me a little nervous, right? Like, are they super, super incompetent, or like do they have like the scoop? Because he hasn't played as many downs the last 2 games either. Like they've let the other dudes, the young guys, play. So maybe like there's a scoop there. I don't know.
I mean, I went to like a Lions blog, and they're very confused. And they said, the only shining light out of this is they get draft picks and they are going to save like a tiny, tiny bit of cap money. But it's like they said, really, like the cap money is like worthless because the player is better than the cap value. So he's in the first year of a 3-year deal. So it's really weird timing for sure.
And they're getting a 5th next year.
And we got him and a 7th back.
Right. So
we got the 7th in a year and a half, though.
Yeah, the 7th the year after that, but
we get to play. We have a player for 2 more years plus this season. So
right.
I mean, you're coming ahead because you have a better idea of what you're getting at a reasonable contract versus hoping your scouting department can hit on a guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting the 7th the year after is like just makes me laugh. How do they get that?
Yeah, it's like how does John like finagle that?
And a 7th in 2021. How about that?
Right.
And they're just like, dude, fine. I've already written it down, but fine. Give me the eraser. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. We'll give you whatever.
Right. Let's move on to topic number 3, and we're gonna the Hawks Cast Corner. We're gonna bring in another Seahawks Twitter comment. So I saw this and I thought it was really funny because, CenturyLink Field has been open for a really long time, but Ross, I want to know, Seahawks Twitter wants to know, why did they build an open-air stadium instead of a dome or retractable roof?
Cheaper. I think actually they did look at a retractable roof and it was too expensive. Actually, I think I vaguely remember reading that at one point. I don't know. I mean, actually, September and October are not that wet. Yeah, right. September's not.
It's definitely December and January are super wet.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like I don't have enough. My seats are covered. Except for that one crazy storm where the rain was coming like horizontal like 6 years ago. I don't know. I guess it's kind of a. Zeb, you got a good answer?
I do not know.
I feel like Sammy's done some research. He's going to enlighten us.
I was happy when I found out they were doing an open air stadium. I think
I dig it, but I guess like
for me it was one of those things like just kind of getting back to real football. And there's always I don't know how much this matters to anything, but there was always that thought, that line of thinking, and I think it still exists to a certain degree, that dome teams just don't play well late in the season in bad weather.
It might have even been like partly like a reaction to just how bad the Kingdom was, because that was a really, really awful surface. And I think the thing is, like, these days you want to have as natural a surface as you want, and they don't have a natural surface. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm just making stuff up. Because it's Seattle and like you got to see the sky because it's gray. But I don't think it's a problem. I really don't. I mean, like you practice in Seattle, you're gonna play in Seattle. You would think it'd be a home field advantage a little bit,
right?
Not
right.
You think like teams coming up from LA. We play the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think they love to play in the rain.
Right.
December when they play there. I don't like the Rams love to play. Coming up from LA, they love to play in the rain. And even the 49ers, I mean, like they don't actually play in San Francisco anymore. They play right over those low mountains where it's actually becomes pretty arid, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like it's a competitive advantage or something.
And we've been playing in this stadium for 17 seasons now. And
now we're gonna.
How many times has it become this big issue? Why did we do it that way? It doesn't matter. Get over it.
I think
for a while it was a big thing. Like there had never been a rainy minute.
Yeah, I remember that because
right?
since like 2003 or 4 when the stadium opened, for like the first 4 years of the stadium being open, there were cloudy and gray days, but it never rained during the Seahawks Sunday.
Just, like, absolutely stunned by that fact.
Yeah. So.
Oh my God! It's not a downpour.
Yeah. Shout out to Birdfinger because Birdfinger is actually on it. I knew this as well, but it was Paul Allen wanted the open field. He talked about growing up going to games at Husky Stadium and watching football in the elements and watching football with the sky and with all these things, and that's what he wanted.
I was right.
So that is the reason that at the time Seahawks Stadium, then CenturyLink, and or Seahawks Quest Field, and now CenturyLink has an open air stadium. It's because that's what Paul Allen envisioned for this team when he took over and they started working on the stadium design. It's interesting, like you guys saying that this is it comes up because people comment on Russell Wilson playing in bad weather and how he doesn't have a great track record. I don't know if there are a lot of great quarterbacks that have great track records in like the rain, but maybe people think that because he plays in Seattle, he'd play in more rainy games, and it's not really a thing, Like Ross was saying, like 5 years ago, there's like a storm. Like we've been to some crazy weather games in Seattle, but they're so few and far between. I can think of maybe 3 or 4 off the top of my head. There was the Thunder lightning storm on Thursday night. There was
maybe that's the game. Is that the one where like I got hit by a cart that was flying across the Concord?
I don't know if that's what happened, but there was the Monday night snow game against the Packers. That was a crazy game.
Yeah.
There was a game because of a lightning storm. I want to say it was also against the Niners. the stadium, like they actually had to rush everyone. It's like everyone needs to get under cover away from the seats, and kind of like Ross, my seats are like right on the cusp of getting wet, so I just stayed in my seats. But yeah, it's pretty rare to have crazy weather at this game, and the weather on Sunday wasn't the worst. It definitely poured, but yeah. Birdfinger says that it really seemed like the Ravens were a bigger problem than the Elements, and I would say that's kind of what I felt too. Just because we were playing from behind, and it worked to their favor with the running quarterback and a guy that they were willing to trust and give the ball to, and not necessarily like put it in the air. But yeah, I think what will be interesting is if we have another game in Seattle with this kind of weather, if we see a repeat performance, because we didn't throw an interception because of the rain. I don't think DK fumbled the ball because of the rain. I think he was trying to do too much rather than, he was trying to make a move and he was trying to put it in a better position, and he just didn't handle the ball. People will probably assume it was
I don't think it's an excuse because they practice with wet balls or whatever, but I do think it was a contributor.
I would agree it's a contributing factor, but I wouldn't say it's like it wasn't the definitive reason. It's not like a Tony Romo fumbling the ball for a field goal attempt, right?
Yeah, I mean it's always raining for both sides, so you know what? Wait, except for who was it? Who was the coach recently? Who was it? Arians? Yes, it was Bruce Arians a couple years ago who implied it was raining more for against his team than the other team. It's like literally, he was like, seemed like an awful bit of coincidence. The rain would pick up every time we were on offense.
Yeah.
What are you trying to imply, man?
Yeah, crazy Bruce Arians.
You can't. It's raining for both sides. It is what it is. It's football. Football's used to be more like that anyway. I'm an old man. I like that. Play in the rain. Play in the snow.
I like it too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to topic number 4. We got the Atlanta Falcons, and we're traveling. So Zeb, there's a typo on the screen, but ignore that. Are the 1-5 Falcons worthy of fear this coming Sunday? It's a 10 a.m. game in Atlanta.
I mean, any given Sunday, right? Like I think that the Seahawks will probably be the favorite in this game if you ask most people that aren't Falcons fans. But they have a guy like Julio who he's one of the best at the position, and I don't think you can't ignore a guy like that. They've got a lot of problems. I haven't watched a ton of Falcons football, but I know that what I've seen hasn't been very good this year. So I'm not particularly worried personally. Like I think this is going to be a lot like the game against the Cardinals, where we should win and will win, and it won't be that close. But you never know. Anything could happen. Worthy of fear is maybe a little too strong. Worthy of a little bit of uncertainty. Yeah, totally. You never know.
Yeah. Ross, any given Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, what's it called? Like a puncher's chance in a boxing match?
Yeah.
They just have to land one punch. Matt Ryan, until last game, thrown for 300 yards in 6 straight games.
Yeah.
And we know, that's pretty good, apparently. And
well, yards are all that matter, apparently. That's what the issue is.
That's all that matters. And like Zeb said, man, they got Julio Jones. They've got Freeman. They've got players you can't ignore. Even like Hooper's making plays this year. So their offense has weapons. They haven't put it together this year for whatever reason, but they have the tools. They have the weapons. It's mostly the same team as last year, and last year they were good. I mean, they weren't elite or anything, but they were good. Their defense as well. Their defense has players. I mean, one of them is good enough that we've talked. There's been chatter that the Seahawks should trade for him. The defensive end, anyway.
Yeah, Vic Beasley. Yeah. What's interesting about this team is they have a ton of injuries. Like they're out their starting safety in Keanu Neal. Matt Ryan's not going to play, so it's going to be Matt Schwab. And
I think Matt Ryan is going to play.
Oh, has that changed? Because I just looked for the line, and there's no line for the Seahawks game yet, even though we're at 10 a.m.
Well,
game.
I happen to have Matt Ryan on 3 of my fantasy. So anyway, everything I've said, like he's probably not going to practice even through Thursday, but he's probably going to.
Yeah. Real quick, Tony chiming in on the chat and says, I was with Falcons fans tonight. They're pessimistic at best. I mean, when you're 1-5, I think it's hard to be like, oh yeah, the next game we're finally going to win this one. So I definitely understand that logic. But I think the thing is, it's not the Falcons that the Seahawks need to fear. They need to fear their execution. And I think that's maybe the biggest thing that's going to prevent them from winning this game. And we'll talk about that maybe in the prediction section. But to Zeb's point, yeah, I mean, every team this Sunday has a chance, unless you're the Dolphins or maybe Washington. It's a weird thing because you can't look and say that the Seahawks at 5-2 are not a bad team, and then on the flip side try and convince yourself that, oh, well, because the Falcons are 1-5, they have to be a bad team. It's not always about the record. Sometimes it's about the matchup. And I think that Seattle has a good matchup. Our safeties are a concern, but maybe the addition of Quandre is going to help. And, I think that Trey Flowers has been playing better as of late. Some say that he had his best game. I think Shaquille Griffin has continued to play at a all-pro level. He just doesn't have the interceptions to back up that all-pro-ness, so maybe he's just going to get a Pro Bowl appearance. But I think those two corners have played better, and that's not a great thing for their passing game. But if we can't get pressure, if we can't, get to the quarterback and we can't move him off his spot, then it is going to allow for a lot of yardage and a lot of opportunity where, we might not be able to get on third down. So I think that's maybe my concern. And that's more about what we're doing, not about what they're doing to us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Good. So I'm not going crazy. What? Excellent.
Nope.
I'm kind of hoping. I'm not. We're hoping that it's shot, or that gets shot by the second. Matt Ryan tries to go. He's ineffective. 2 interceptions, something like that. The real question is, will Dan Quinn be rejoining the Seahawks in some capacity?
I don't know, man.
I don't think it's going to be in. And when you leave the job like that, I don't know if you get another head coaching job. So, you know what? Like, Pete Carroll's ex-coordinators are not running up a great track record.
No, they're not doing great.
No.
What does that say? Does that say it's all about Pete? Does it say about...
I think it's a mixture of also giving credit to John Schneider and building the team that you want to have. I mean, I don't want to talk about it. Actually, no, I'm going to save it because I got a prediction for this, so we're not going to talk about it yet.
I think people overperform for Pete Carroll.
I would say that is a big thing, and that's that player coach.
I think so too. But I keep being told on Twitter that no, it's just Russell Wilson carrying the team.
But that's all. But
I've been told.
People on Twitter are on Twitter for a reason. Just like we're on Twitter for a reason. It's just to spout whatever crazy idea we think someone will listen to and give us a like for. There's not necessarily a lot of research or sound logic. It's a lot of feeling, and it's not always accurate, because there's plenty of players that have not done well outside of Seattle, and there's only a few players that have done really, really well outside of Seattle. And it's not necessarily something that they've sustained for long periods of time. I think the one that comes to mind is Golden Tate did really well in Detroit because he played for a pass-heavy team.
Yeah, that's just volume.
Yeah, Max Unger did pretty well in New Orleans with the Saints, but it didn't result.
He was traded. It wasn't like they get something, you got to give something.
Yeah, I would say the one player that has having an exceptional time right now, I would say, is Richard Sherman and Justin Coleman. Justin Coleman is apparently the best slot corner in the NFL according to a few metric sites, and Richard Sherman looks like Richard Sherman. So those are the two people that I think that Seattle maybe misses in regards to their play, maybe not their character for Richard Sherman, but for the most part, there's not a lot of other players that are really, really taking the world by storm when they go to other teams.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that goes to their coordinators too. So,
Not even Christine Williams, because that dude was like the next Steve Largent.
Oh, yeah. So much frustration with that. Final thoughts on the Falcons, guys?
They have cool uniforms, don't they? Or rather, logo, I guess.
I like the old one better, but yeah.
I like when they wear the black home jersey with like the black letters and then the red outline. I remember that from like the Jamal Anderson days, the Dirty Bird, if you will.
How about Billy White Shoes Johnson?
I was a huge Falcons fan in the Deion Sanders, Andre Rison days, and
nice.
when they first went from red to black, loved those uniforms. Those were my favorite ones they've ever had.
When I was a kid, they had a quarterback named Steve Bartowski, and I dug that dude. Yeah, they always had they had really cool running backs, and I don't know.
Dude, I was so stoked when we got Steve Broussard from them. I thought that was the best.
It was the best for like 6 games. Like in 1999, they started so hot. Like every game, they had a different running back returning kickoffs for touchdowns.
Yeah, it was amazing. Was Derek Lavelle? Was he one of them?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then everything fell apart.
Yeah. Birdfinger chiming in and saying he had a Falcon Jeff George jersey. Tony saying
Nice.
The only thing that bothers me is sometime we play down to our competition. Actually, Tony, we talked about that last week where we said that, Seahawks and Pete Carroll philosophy is play to your opponent so you don't have to do too much, and that makes it so these games are a lot closer, and sometimes it's like stupid mistakes that allow the game to be close. But yeah, that is something that I think is troublesome, that we can't just like blow people out like on a regular basis. We're always kind of playing to the competition's level.
Yep.
But with that, we're going to get some predictions out there. So, Zeb, I'm going to hit you off first. What's the final score? Seahawks at Falcons.
31-17.
Nice. I like that. That's a nice, comfortable win. Ross?
I don't know. 24-43.
24-43 is in favor.
24-23.
Oh, 24-23. Okay. Usually when you say the lower score, that's the Seahawks. But
I'm predicting a win.
Okay.
And let's just keep going with those 1-point wins.
That would be the consistent, which would drive everyone nuts. I'm gonna say we're gonna see a little bit more of a scoring production. It's in the dome. It's a very comfortable confines. Quick shout out to Birdfinger for saying DK in a dome is going to fly. I like the idea of DK getting more opportunities, and I really wish they would give him a post pattern here and there instead of running all the fly routes. But I'm going to say the score is going to be 35-17 Seahawks.
Okay.
Zeb, is Russell Wilson's MVP appearance going to return?
Yes, absolutely.
Ross?
Yeah. But it's going to be more like because nobody else wants it. Like if the Ravens have a bye, there's no more bye for Jackson, and people aren't going to give it to Brady because fuck that guy. So like you got to give it to somebody, and there's not that many teams this year. 49ers, you're not going to give who would, the 49ers seem like legit and they're undefeated, but who would you give it to? Like it's not Garoppolo.
No, not Garoppolo.
None of those guys are good.
You're not going to give it to. So, and if Russell Wilson goes out and throws 2 or 3 touchdowns and doesn't have an interception and maybe does one more like amazing looking play that gets shown on Sports Center, then all of a sudden it's Russell Wilson again because we're 6-2.
They'll forget about last week instantly if he does that.
Short memory.
I think that Russell's going to have his MVP appearance again, but it's going to be like a real low key. It'll be like 15 for 19, 3 touchdowns, 175 yards, and they're just going to rush out over it. So he'll get the touchdowns, he won't get the yardage.
Do you think we're not going to have to throw much? Because like Atlanta can throw.
Yeah, I think Atlanta can throw, but I think what's going to happen is Seattle's going to come out with the lead, and they're not going to need to throw. They're going to run the ball, and then Russ is going to hit him play action, and that's where he's going to get his touchdowns.
I buy that.
I'll take it.
Birdfinger giving a 24-13 Seahawks win. He does say that Russell's going to get his MVP, and I assume that if he had to give MVP to someone else, he's talking Aaron Rodgers. Zeb is... Are we going to see some...
I would kill myself. That guy would be even more insufferable.
He's only had one MVP game. I don't think it's going to return. Zeb, are we going to see return of the defensive pressure from the Seahawks? They've not been looking so hot.
God, I hope so. I'm going to try to will it into existence here. Yes.
Ross?
I mean, you get Matt Ryan and you get Matt Schwartz. Does everybody on their team name Matt?
On that team, yes.
Matt Bryant. Isn't there kicker Matt?
Their kicker is Matt Bryant, I believe.
Is like some rule?
Well, I think that was... Did they still have him, or did they switch it up?
I don't think they cut him, unless I'm mistaken.
Like, it's like a rule? If you're white and a Atlanta Falcons, you have to... Anyway, I mean, like, they got a couple statues. You would think that there would be a couple opportunities there. They meant to upgrade their line, but they haven't too completely because the guy they drafted to Washington's hurt, right? So you would think there would be some opportunities there. But we've had opportunities before against Cleveland, for example, and it didn't really matter. I thought we had no sacks last game. Apparently they gave Brendan...
There's one, but it didn't really count. Or it doesn't matter.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
A sack is a sack.
They gave Brendan Jackson one, so...
yeah. I think we are going to see a return to defensive pressure because Matt Ryan and Matt Schwab are statues. They're not mobile enough to avoid that kind of pressure. And this is...
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because I want to modify mine slightly. I just had enough thought. I think they're going to throw a lot of like 1.5 second routes so that you can't get them from the outside. But I think maybe Jared Reed actually gets one. Like pressure up the middle will matter this week. That's the only pressure you're going to get. I could see Reed getting one.
I think if Matt Ryan is playing, that's the offense they can try to run to try and limit the Seahawks pass rush, which is something that can definitely happen. But if they're playing from behind, which I'm predicting they will, they're not going to have time to be patient and just like matriculate down the field. So this is the question that I was saying prediction-wise is Dan Quinn and the Super Bowl defense. And for those of you who are not aware, Dan Quinn is the one responsible for two of the largest comebacks in the Super Bowl history. Once as defensive coordinator for the Seahawks and once as the head coach for the Falcons. So, do you think that his defense will be as bad? Yes or no?
I don't even know if I understand what I'm trying to figure out.
Is he?
What was the question?
It's a long-winded question. I'll save it for the forum. We'll just move ahead. This is a prediction for Ross, but Zeb, you're still going to answer first. Are we going to see a fourth down quote-unquote flub from Pete Carroll this game?
No.
Yes, because they aren't flubs. They're flubs by design. They're going to be like decisions which statistically dubious analysis you can say are wrong and stupid, but there's reasons. Like, and you can't see them. Like, I think everybody just misinterprets Pete Carroll's game. They think he's so conservative. He's not. Like, the Seahawks were the first NFL team to have an analytics department. People realize that? They're analyzing things, but they're analyzing things for real. Like, I had somebody tell me, like, oh, well, you only make 54-yard field goals 53% of the time. I'm like, it literally does not matter what Mathematica does when your kicker's Jason Peters. Like, it doesn't... Jason Myers? Who the fuck's
Myers.
Like, it literally has no influence whether somebody made a kick in Minnesota last year and it was a different guy. All that matters is your guy. It's not dice. It's not playing cards. You can't just go out and take statistical and models. The person actually matters. This person might make them 80% of them. This person might make them 20% of them. You can't take straight to statistical models and then apply it to a team. They're not dice. They're people. And everyone is different, and they match up different. And everything is connected to everything else. And until you're taking that into consideration, shut the hell up.
Clap for Ross, because I agree. So I'm going to say there's not going to be a fourth down flub. Tony and Birdfinger are saying that Tony's saying that clock mismanagement counts, and Birdfinger says he can't help it. So they
Clock mismanagement does count. I will walk back slightly. Clock mismanagement does.
Okay.
That's a real thing.
All right, but doesn't necessarily mean a fourth down flow. But yes, I agree. All right, quickly, Zeb, are we going to see a return to the run this game?
Carson's going to have him a game, yeah.
Ross.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be Chris Carson. I think it's going to be pretty evenly, I think there's going to be some penny carries. I think there's going to be some pro-size carries. Carson's going to get us 10 carries, but 12 carries, 10. But I think for various reasons, for example, it's a stadium where I think that's really suitable for Penny's running style, if he's healthy.
I'd like to see that, yeah, healthy.
I think pro-size is really fast on fake surfaces, so I think it's a good time to get some other running backs going, and you want to start saving Carson a little bit.
Carson's getting 20 carries a game, by the way.
Yeah, that's not sustainable. You can't keep that up and hope he's going to be fresh for the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see.
So you got to get Penny in there, man.
I agree that you have to share the love, but I'm going to say in this game, like Birdfinger, that Chris Carson goes ham, return to the run. Last prediction, Zeb, what's going to create the first big play? Is it going to be the offense, the defense, or special teams?
Defense going to set the tone.
Ross?
Special teams.
Special teams? Man, that's a weird comment. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to say the offense. I'm the offense. I'm going to say Chris Carson's going to get a monster run. He's going to stiff arm someone, as Marshawn would say. He won't take it to the house, but he'll get damn close.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Since it's related to my answer. What happened to our punter?
I don't know.
That dude was amazing last year. And we haven't seen even one cool kick. Oh my God! He made it go out of the 1 yard. He made it go out of the yard line. There's any of that this year. What happened?
Very, very few. I don't know what happened.
It's few. He had a decent kick in the game yesterday. He pinned them in the under the 10.
Right.
But yeah, he's been booting them out of the back of the end zone. I'm not sure what that's
booting
going.
him short. he's gone some inside the 20, but last year it was over and over again inside the 5, dude. And he had that weird kick where it lands, but then it takes a left turn or a right turn.
Yeah.
I don't see any of that. I don't see any coffin corners. I don't see, and I'm really missing because now I'm in Tokyo and I'm watching rugby all the time. And all these dudes can kick. They can kick exactly where they want to kick the ball. And our dude used to be able to do that. And after 1 year in America, he's just forgotten.
I will say I did watch one of the quarterfinal games, and it was Ireland versus New Zealand, and Ireland could not kick for the sideline at all. They were trying, and they kicked 5 of them in the line of field where they're not supposed to. They're trying to
Ireland
kick
got their butt kicked.
Yeah,
and that is the rugby
Hey,
World Cup podcast.
Quick thing, just because we're talking about kicking, did you guys know about the fair catch free kick rule up until 2 weeks ago?
is that the one that the Panthers tried to do, or is it the
One of them, I don't even remember what game it was, but if you make, after a fair catch, if you want to, you can do a free kick and try to kick a field goal.
Is that what happened? I came into that game as he was kicking the field goal. Not really a field goal. It's off the tee, right?
No, it's a free kick after a safety.
No, that's right. Yeah. So I came in as they were doing that, and I was like, huh? What are we doing here?
that was,
Yeah, so if you
that was
fair
the Panthers
catch-
game in London, right?
Okay, yeah, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that must be it. Yeah, that makes sense. Riverboat Ron.
So you're doing from your own 35. You're trying to drop kick into a point.
No, you get to do it from the spot where the fair catch was made. So if somebody's punting out of their end zone and it's not a very good kick and you fair catch it at their 35 or 40 or something like that, you can attempt the free kick to get a field goal.
How do you get the ball back? It's just in the next play?
Well, that's kicking to the other team, though. So, if it doesn't go through, then they get the ball.
Yeah.
It's going to go through the end zone probably and be a touchback.
Right.
Weird. Whatever.
It's just one of those things that just never happens, but it's in there's a couple of those little rules that
I feel like Seattle should have done that, but last year when our kicker was just take 3 points over there.
I bet they'll try one if the situation presents itself.
When somebody is forced to punt with 30 seconds left.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'll do that.
All right, we'll see. Anyway, gentlemen, that is our podcast for the day. Ross, Zeb, any shout-outs?
Shout-outs to the Tokyo Olympic Committee, who are everything, every little.
They're everywhere.
No, like you're just to anything connected to the Olympics that we're having here next year is being messed up. Like, for example, to volunteer, you sort of like have to like pay for everything yourself.
Really?
And you're like, it's just crazy. There's all this weird stuff going on. So yeah, well done, dudes. Well done.
Shout out to my cousins Elijah and Amanda and my aunt Tori for the awesome weekend in SoCal.
All right. Shout out to Birdfinger and Tony for checking out the stream today. Shout out to the Sounders for Tony. He says, speaking of kicking, congratulations, Sounders. Big win tonight. So they're moving on to, I believe, the Western Conference Finals. I'm not a big on what's going on, but, congrats to them and their fans. This is the Hawkscast podcast. Check us out at hawkscast.com. Go to Seahawks forum on Twitter or Seahawks podcast on Twitter. I am Sam, there Zeb and Ross, and we appreciate you guys for checking us out, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Hawks.